All right, so last week we actually launched a new series regarding who we want to join the UFC roster from other organizations. It was actually a bantamweight division. And Kai Asakura went under the radar somehow.
Oh! Ew! Dude! What the fuck?
Yeah.
Now, the Guru actually spoke about him in a recent video that he released on Monday of this week. I believe it was on the 9th, or sorry, Sunday of this week, which was the 9th. And I'm not going to shit on the guy because he is who he is. But it was basically 8 minutes of, look at how many views this guy has on YouTube, how many social media interactions he has, which was a valid point, but I figure we could expand on this a little bit.
And I start seeing, why has this fight got 2.2 million views? Him versus Kyoji Horiguchi in the rematch. 8.9 million views. And I'm confused.
So I just want to talk about, who is Kai Asakura to you? Why is this a marquee signing? And who do you think the UFC should match him up with on his debut?
So, one, Kai Asakura is, in my opinion, the reason that I didn't bring him up in that video is because of how I feel about Horiguchi. But if Horiguchi was in the UFC, I probably would have brought up this dude. I feel like he's on that same level. He just fought Juan Archuleta, I think at the end of the year, and finished him. Like, he's fighting legit dudes. Even if there are people that you're not familiar with, he's fighting legit dudes. He went through an entire tournament, which we don't have tournaments, and we've talked about this in previous videos. There aren't tournaments in the UFC, but I do think that tournaments, well, there is a tournament in UFC. It's the Ultimate Fighter. But besides that, there's no other sorts of tournaments, and tournaments are really hard to get through. And he was able to survive that and become a champion in Ryzen. So dude is legit, and that's what he's legit. And he's not a fighter that they need to cultivate. You know, like when Michael Chandler came in, they didn't need to do a whole bunch of stuff to get him ready.
This is massive news because this guy, Kai Asakura, brings an insane audience.
When MVP came in, same thing. I think that, and even going back further than that, when the WEC guys came in, you know, the Anthony Pettis's, the Ben Hendersons, like, they didn't need to wait and get them ready for like, they were ready to go immediately once they got there. And this guy is the same type of fighter. As far as who he should fight coming in, I think I would say what would be cool, and it won't be a major fight, but it would be something that you can kind of sneak into a card, is perhaps the winner of the Alex Perez Tatsuro Taira fight. I think that would be very interesting to see, because that's the back end, or actually no, that's flyweight, right? I'm thinking no. That's are we talking about bantamweight or flyweight?
I was going to bring this up.
Yeah,
this is kind of where I'm leading to, because
I don't know which one he's going to fight at.
Yeah, cook how you want to. They're both viable.
Yeah.
I'm going to explain why.
Yeah, well, I was thinking about that particular fight because that'll introduce him right into that top five, right on the edge of top five. But if he goes bantamweight,
That was the plan. Not a great plan.
which I think that they have him listed as in for the UFC roster, then perhaps somewhere in that same range. I don't know if I would go top five, because that top five is pretty nasty. But somewhere in the top 8 might be good for him, just to see where he's at. But I don't know. I don't know if I have a specific name because of how in flux things are right now at bantamweight, because everything's moving. But did you already have somebody going or peg for him in bantamweight?
I don't have a specific opponent in mind, but I'm not thinking about bantamweight at all. And the reason why I'm kind of veering away from bantamweight, like, first of all, like, before I get into who he should fight, like, the first thing I want to say is, like, this we know that the UFC has obviously been attempting to boost their share of the market in major nations across the world for the last, well, we'll say decade now.
You don't say!
Like, they've already got Brazil, they already have America, they have the UK. To a certain degree, they've made a large push to acquire the Mexican market as well, which is obviously huge in combat sports as well. They've got China a little bit, you know, they've got Zhang Weili to a certain extent, Song Yadong, and they've got a few like lower level mid-carders as well. Judging by the blatant robbery over the weekend, they're clearly making an attempt to capture that colossal Indian market as well.
He ain't lying.
For me, like, this acquisition of Asakura is bigger than all those things. Like, Japan, you can argue, were like the pioneers of mainstream MMA going way back, and they have a massive existing fan base. So outside of like Tatsuro Taira, the UFC have virtually no Japanese presence in the UFC. I know they've got Rinya Nakamura, who's another one on the rise as well, I guess. But you don't really know, I don't really know how known he is to their fan base. And judging by like social media and other metrics, I don't think he's hugely massive in Japan yet. They've got the road to the UFC, which they've clearly been addressing, you know, that market, and they've been planting seeds in that region in general. I know that Korea is another market that they really clearly want. And I think this acquisition of Asakura is a massive coup. You know, as the Guru pointed out, he already has a massive market behind him and a large social media following. But the most telling thing about this is that this is not just... And you know, he doesn't just have a massive media following because of his fighting. I mean, the guy's drawing in multi-million views when he's going out for lunch and vlogging that on a Sunday afternoon.
Look at the view counts that this guy pulls on his videos. He is a viral sensation.
Oh, good lord.
I mean, if that's getting 4 million views, you're kind of seeing the level where this guy's at.
Mm-hmm.
But if like you look at his fights as well, he's fought notable names, including wins and losses with Manel Kape and Horiguchi, which you mentioned. His cage style is quite exciting. I mean, the guy has 13 wins by KO, TKO. He's got 3 wins by submission and 5 by decision. So that kind of sums up a very well-rounded fighter to me. And as you mentioned, he's fighting notable names. He's been fighting notable names with good win-loss records for years now. He's 30 years old. He's at a prime age. So I feel like this statement signing is massive. It's a massive acquisition for the UFC, possibly the biggest that they've ever made overseas. So to address the question of like what the UFC does with him, I honestly hope that they don't bring him into bantamweight, and I hope they load him into the flyweight division. You can set him up for big fights in bantamweight, but for me, he is a very undersized bantamweight. Yeah. Like in his last title defense, like he's technically the bantamweight, or he was the bantamweight champion of Ryzen, and he weighed in at 132 for his last defense.
Oh yeah, that's not enough.
And for me, if you pump him into that division, and if you're planning on making the most of him as a name, the path to the title is way more difficult at bantamweight. I don't think anyone would deny that. He has an existing history with Kape that they can exploit. And I think the path for him at flyweight would be a really speedy one, considering what he brings with him already. I feel it will be like a Chandler Dana White privilege. You can substitute in your own color situation. I'm not going to be saying that, but I'm going to imply it.
Tell me, you didn't just say that.
So it's not the Dana White thing; it's the Dana other color. We'll leave it there. But if I was them, because of where flyweight's at right now, I would match him with a top 5 flyweight contender, get a win, and then line him up for a shot with either Pantoja or whoever has the belt. Like if they could position it so that it's Kape in a rubber match, all the better. And I feel like if they handle it that way and push it down that avenue, this could be really colossal in terms of instantly grabbing that Japanese market, which, as I said, was a pioneer nation in the sport and has a huge already existing rabid fan base that they can exploit. So I'd go down that avenue.
Absolutely. I think...
Hey, CJ.
What's up? I didn't want to interrupt.
Yeah, you snuck in here.
Sorry, I was in another ramble. I'm really hyped about this guy.
No, I think Amir Al-Bazi is another name, another interesting name to throw into the mix, because I know he had an injury that he was nursing, but it didn't seem like it was anything that was ridiculous. So that would be, I think that he would infuse some excitement into an Amir Al-Bazi fight, because who's clamoring to see Amir Al-Bazi right now?
Dodson, we've got Dodson here. See, nobody cares.
Not very many people. So it would give both of them an opportunity to get a credible win on their resume. And he's a fresh name. Yeah. He's a fresh name, and we just talked about this on that other video about him being secure because of all the rematches and all the people that he's already beat. This is a fresh name. So yeah, he should go flyweight for sure.
Yeah, I think like flyweight needs it a lot more than bantamweight does. I feel like bantamweight has like a whole line of killers just waiting for their opportunity, and he would probably need 2 or 3 viable wins, despite the size of his name, because most American audiences, or the bulk of the American audience, is not going to know who the fuck this guy is.
No.
So it's going to be very hard to launch him into. You could launch him into a fight outside, from 8 to 10. But he'd still need 2 or 3 fights in a dangerous division to get him anywhere near the belt.
Yep.
Whereas at flyweight, you could drop him in against the top 5, and then launch him into a title fight after that, no problem.
Yep.
I think flyweight needs it a lot more than bantamweight does.
They need something.
Yeah, stand up, motherfucker! Stand the fuck up! Stand the fuck up, motherfucker! What you want? Alright, yeah. Shut the fuck mouth. Sit down. Your things is with Stricker. Sit the fuck down.
They need eyeballs. They need something. And like I said, if you can mix that dynamic with somebody like... That would be the ideal situation, because Pantoja's boring as fuck. If you could get him across from Cap where they've got history, I think that would be huge.
Yep.
If they could somehow manipulate it in that way, it'd be massive.